Welcome to Rome. This is The Bittersweet Life with Katy Sewell and Tiffany Parks. Hello, this is The Bittersweet Life. I'm Katy Sewell. Tiffany is away this week, but I am not alone. I am joined by my sister, Dana Zoller. Hi, Dana.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Katy in Seattle, Dana down in California. And today we are going to, if you've been following the show for a long time, you know that Dana has faced some health challenges, very significant health challenges, which I guess we can give a quick recap of if you want. But I wanted to have you on for a number of reasons. But one is that the number one question I now get from people who listen to this show used to be about something having to do with Italian travel or expat life. And now my number one question that I receive is, how's Dana doing? So I thought it was
so sweet. That's so sweet.
It is very sweet, but I thought it might, maybe all these questions of how Dana's doing is an indication that Dana should appear again on the show and let everyone know how you're doing. So before we get into the bigger, larger conversation I want to have with you today, give us an update. What's going on for those who have no idea who you are, and how are you doing?
Okay, well, about 7 months ago, I was diagnosed with two glioblastoma multiform stage 4 brain tumors, and since then have undergone surgery to remove one of them and 6 weeks of radiation and chemotherapy, followed by ongoing monthly chemotherapy in a pill form, not intravenous, but a pill form. And we're in the stage right now where I've recovered from the surgery and from the effects of the radiation, and things are relatively stable right now. And so we're in a pattern of having MRIs at various intervals to compare and make sure that the doctors know what's going on in there or what's not going on in there, and continued monthly chemotherapy, which looks like 5 days of being on it and then 23 days of recovery. And then that goes in cycles. So
Okay.
that's where we're at right now. Things are pretty stable. In general, I feel pretty good and I'm able to enjoy 80% of the life I used to have before, with
Uh-huh.
the exception of not being able to teach anymore. So I'm no longer able, I'm on disability retirement. So I guess I'm officially retired since the last time we chatted.
Right, right. So, but you would say, I think once you told me that, and maybe this is not the case anymore, but once you told me that you were feeling about as normal as you had since all this began.
Yes, and I would say that was probably how I was feeling about a month ago, maybe two. It's a little less than that now, probably mostly due to just the ongoing effects of the chemo and the radiation. The chemotherapy, it takes a little bit more out of me now than it used to, which I guess is to be expected. And it's not like I'm a spring chicken anyway. So, uh, um, and a second piece of it is I'm probably not resting as much as I could be. And I'm a very active person, so I like to try to be involved with things. And so I'm really active around the house and with my kids and that kind of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I probably should be scheduling like an hour and a half in the afternoon where I, just read or I watch something or I nap, but I haven't done that yet. So I should probably do that.
Well, just a couple weeks ago, I did a live interview on stage with a brain scientist who was on this very show named Therese Houston. And she told me something during that interview I had not ever heard in my life before, that according to brain science, the best time to nap is prior to 2 in the afternoon, which
Oh,
who knew?
interesting.
And also, the optimal nap time is 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, I did know that. I knew it was shorter than I would typically like.
I know. I was thinking, like, really, not an entire hour? Like, we can't have 1 hour? But yeah,
Yeah.
no. Apparently that's the word. So I guess if you can wedge in that 20 to 30 minute nap prior to 2, you might be at your most optimal,
In
according
the
to
sweet spot.
in the
Mm.
sweet spot. Yes. Um, how would you say, because like the last time you appeared on the show, I think it was summertime, I believe,
Yeah,
and now of course we're
I think
deep
so.
into fall. How would you say your overall like outlook is compared to, how you were last time you saw? Last time you were pretty optimistic. How are you feeling these days?
Yeah, and I'm optimistic about day-to-day stuff, right? So not necessarily that I'll be some sort of outlier or something in terms of optimism, but um, I still have that same outlook. I think it's becoming more nuanced as time goes on because, of course, as time goes on, for example, now instead of just showing up at my MRI and having it go, okay, that looks great, see you in 2 months, it's now, oh, we see something, come back in a month. And it's things like that that are changing, which, although I would like to say don't bother me at all, there's a little bit of thinking I've done about that was not part of my thinking prior to this.
Mm-hmm.
So there are also many things that I could choose to worry about this diagnosis, and if I still haven't gone online to research it because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Um,
good plan.
I think I'm one of the reasons I'm able to try to take things day by day and keep a more optimistic or what can I do instead of what can't I do, and like what is feeling great instead of what's the one thing that feels weird or something like that has been something that's been working for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I've always known that there would be a time coming that that would be challenged, that things would get harder, and that the things that I'm facing would be more present. And so I think we're at the very beginning of maybe seeing some of that, perhaps not. And so I've been really intentional. I mean, I see a therapist weekly. I meditate every day. I exercise every day. Well, I shouldn't say it's not really cardio, but it's keeping my muscles strong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I find time to stay in touch with people that I care about and cherish sort of those conversations. So the things that bring consolation, as your audience has heard me say before,
Uh-huh.
the things that bring consolation are what I try to focus on instead of the things that make me feel more desolate or frightened or uncertain.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to engage with those regularly. I think it would be silly to just be sunshine all the time and be completely ignorant of what's happening. I don't think that would serve anyone. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't do that. I did spend a decent portion of Tuesday this week working on my celebration of life
Yes.
plans.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and that brought some tears just because, not so much because I was planning my own, celebration of life, but because it really brings into focus what you hope to leave with people as your sort of last, I don't know, maybe not last impression, or that's not what I mean, but
Yeah.
the words are failing me, but like choosing what are my favorite choral pieces, what are my favorite Bible verses, who would I want to be a part of the music or be a part of the readers, or and those things, because they're so meaningful to me, brought up a lot of the emotions. It wasn't the sadness, it was more the meaningfulness and the gravity of how lucky I've been and throughout my life to have had such beautiful moments and really amazing friends and family and colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
students. So
Yeah. Well, and in choosing the music too, it's almost like you're picking what people might listen to think about you later on also.
yeah, that's probably true. I really I want the vibe to be a little bit more. I think it's a stretch to ask for people to feel joyful at a
Yeah.
memorial service, but not the heaviness, but more the thankfulness of the life that I've been able to have and how fortunate it's been and how I've got to experience so many things that I cared about deeply and got to do the profession that I loved for so long. And um, so I kind of wanted to think of it more of celebration. That's why I like the phrase celebration of life rather than, funeral or memorial
Mm-hmm.
service. But then I noticed that all the songs that I was choosing that are the most meaningful to me are really sort of slow and beautiful and soft. With a couple of exceptions, I'm like, oh boy, that's going to be hard to have a celebration sort of vibe when all the songs I'm choosing are.
Yeah, I was joking with you yesterday that's the Protestant upbringing that coming out perhaps that we all really love this sort we love these songs that somehow hit your soul on this deeper, slightly more, I don't want to say it's a morose level cuz but I mean I guess some people would take it to be that way, but like,
I think of it as more profound or more meaningful
profound.
or
Yeah, I like that.
yeah,
That's better.
yeah.
I mean,
Something that has meaning and gravitas to it instead of, just okay, what hymns do most people use? I would never do that. So, but
right. Especially not as a music teacher and a person who's loved music so deeply as you have
yeah,
your whole life.
that's the main reason. Yeah, the music side.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of like, I don't know, the way that you're thinking about life, some people would see it as like learning to let go of it in some ways. Perhaps. Like, I mean, that's a reason why I think in our culture we don't like to think about the fact that we're going to die because, we don't like the idea of the letting go of control or whatever we have planned for ourselves for the future or whatever, that's why
Hmm.
we tend to avoid it. I mean, what is it like for you to actually like look so directly at it? I know that you weren't a person who looked as directly at it as perhaps your younger sister here has over the years, So what has that been like for you?
Yeah, I know. I was just, I guess, born with a personality that always just sort of looked on the sunny side of things, just as a general rule, not even intentionally, just that's the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's pretty much how it is for me now. That's what I find, those what I was mentioning, the things that the cracks are starting to show, or whatever the phrasing you want to use. It's been my ability to look at the positives, to do not give too much time or gravitas to the negatives. Um, you know, I think it's the time is coming when I'm going to have to give more thought to that. For me, it shows itself and has from the very beginning when I think about my kids and my husband. That's when it shows up for me, and when I've definitely thought about the impact of my passing on my family and trying to do whatever I can to make the time that we spend together meaningful, which of course is impossible. You can't do that when you have a teenager. But trying to lean into less control and more enjoy the moment and the people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I do worry. I do worry about what will happen to my kids, what will happen to my husband,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm not there anymore. That's the thing that I've had a lot of practice in being concerned about because that'll usually, I'm surprised I'm not tearing up right now. That's usually the thing that tears me up and brings a lump to my throat,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about wanting to make, I, I don't even know if this is attainable, but wanting to make, if I am going to go downhill, when I go downhill, make that as easy as possible on the people that I love somehow. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how,
Uh-huh.
but to have things in place like a health directive plan, having in place what is hospice going to look like. We've already discussed like I'd like to be at home instead of in a center if that's possible, and if so, where would we put the bed? And so that
Mm-hmm.
I could be around the family and the animals, but I could also rest. And we're not afraid to talk about those things. And I think that that is been helpful, that we don't have to feel like we can't face those things head on at home, but we also can't live there all the time. And
Yeah.
so, um, some days are just normal days, and other days something happens or someone calls and you have a moment. And usually they're really beautiful moments where I haven't connected with someone for a while and we're getting to connect and it's a really meaningful experience. Or you hear a piece of music. I heard a piece of music in church. Just it was like the exit hymn while people are walking out, and they had brought in a brass group
Mm.
to play it, and it was one of the songs I had done with my choir that was one of the most beautiful things that I'd ever done with my students. It's called Salvation is Created, and um, I just sat there and closed my eyes, and my hands started moving like I was directing the song,
Mm.
and all of a sudden, like tears start, coming
Mm-hmm.
out of my eyes, and it has to do with, now I'm getting teary, has
Mm-hmm.
to do with just the thankfulness I have for, I just see all these images of students,
Mm-hmm.
of performing, of my being in a choir, and
Yeah. We're
cut
laughing because
cut this part, cut this part. No,
yeah.
but the things that have been meaningful to me, the all the study that I did for music, all the students that I'd work with, all the choirs I've sung with,
Mm-hmm.
the text of the words is are basically just Alleluia, Amen, and the piece is really, I mean, there's more text if you want to do it, but I like the simple version,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the whole thing is these gorgeous chords in minor, and then the very last chord of the entire song goes to major, like you're rising to heaven,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't make it through that part without crying,
Yeah. I could
and
see that.
so. Um, there's so many gifts like that if you lean into them. And I wouldn't have, like, almost didn't go to church on Sunday because I really just thought I probably should stay home and take it a little bit more easier, maybe get a nap in. And instead I go and then I have this really
Mm-hmm.
transformative moment, which sort of ties a lot of my life up into one thing. And I came home, and you can cut this if it's boring, but I came home
It's
and
not boring, Dana. It's not
I
boring.
if this upcoming story is too boring. Um, I came home to find a choral recording of that song. I know I have a copy somewhere of one of my choirs doing it, but I didn't want to dig through that. So I looked online, and the one that best matched what I hear in my ear when I hear that song was a recording posted in 2000 of the Brainerd A Cappella Choir singing
Oh,
the song.
wow.
And that's where we grew up. And the a cappella choir the man that directed it, Michael Smith, was an inspiration to me, and it's what led me to go into choir and becoming a choir director. And so the full 60, the three the 360 of that, plus the beauty of the song, plus all these images of my beautiful students singing, just, it was so meaningful to me. I was so glad that I had gone to church that day. Um, not even
Yeah.
to, I haven't even mentioned like the message of the song. It's just all it is Alleluia, Amen. And then it's all about, in the Christian
Mm-hmm.
tradition anyway, the salvation that's available to, to people, whatever you want to say. Salvation is such a loaded word. So I think of it more of just grace and
Mm-hmm.
that the world extends. But it was really meaningful. So I'm sure I'm way off whatever question you asked.
I don't
But
know.
I think you were asking about, the weight of things or the things that are hard. And there are those moments, but there's these massive beams of light that just come in. And I think the last time we talked, I talked about people reaching out that I hadn't heard from for ages and getting cards and texts and just random strangers praying for me in parking lots and, handing me flowers after my surgery. And it's just, the gifts are just beyond description. And so it's the gifts that I want like to try to lean into when things get hard because it's filled up my soul repeatedly.
Well, I'm going to try to find that song and maybe we'll end that with it so people can actually
Okay.
hear what it sounds like. Oh, well, you talked about like the sadness that you feel when you think about your family going on without you and trying to make that as good as you can. But like, I mean, do you, in all this gratitude, do you feel like a sadness for yourself? I,
I do feel sadness for myself when I think about not getting to see what my children do,
mm-hmm,
not getting to help them through harder times the way parents often do when kids finally grow out of their teens and early 20s and start turning back towards home like, oh, I did like this about my family and I missed that, or what advice do I want to ask my mom? And that's, I don't remember if I mentioned this the last time we chatted for the podcast, but record I try to record every day. I have fallen off that, but I try to make recordings, and sometimes it's just my reflections and memories and stuff my kids probably don't know about me, and
mm-hmm.
sometimes it's advice, things like you might not need this until you find yourself pregnant. Then listen to this, and here's what my experience was, and a lot of
mm-hmm.
the things that kids ask when they're older, and I do wish that I could be there for that. That does make me sad. I'm also sad about not getting to spend sort of the golden years with my partner, getting old together and doing the stuff we always dreamed about doing in retirement. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we still haven't gone to any of those places that we always dreamed about just because travel has been made more difficult and we've been prioritizing seeing family,
Yeah.
which is wholly appropriate. But I do miss that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think, but I'm so fortunate that we've had so far, you know, the 15 to 20 years that we've had. And what if I had never decided to get divorced and get married and take a, you know, chance on that, and I would have missed out on all the gifts that have come from that. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's a lot of gratitude with the things I wish were different.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about. We were talking a little bit about switching gears, I guess, a little bit. We were talking about that you had basically adopted every single habit that they suggest that a person with brain cancer adopt to what? Have the best life possible? What is the
I I think it's a combination. I think what he said was the patients that have more longevity in this fatal disease tend to do these seven things. And then he wrote the seven things on the board. And
okay.
so obviously we wrote them all down and I've been trying to do them all.
Yeah, well,
So
I thought like we should share what the things are, at least the ones you think are most meaningful, because it's not like it's bad advice for the rest of us,
yeah,
honestly.
I really think it's about being a healthy person is
Yeah,
really what it comes down to, as
right.
well as both mentally and physically. So if I can remember all seven, one of them is meditation.
Mm-hmm.
One is cognitive behavioral therapy,
Okay.
uh,
Which you
which
just
is,
did before we started talking.
yes. Uh, One is novelty, which is the one that's the most fun,
Mm-hmm.
which is doing new things, trying new things, keeping your brain exploring and open to new things, not just sitting in the same room,
Mm-hmm.
looking at the same objects. That's three. Then it was being vegan or vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Boy, that's only four.
I know it's tricky.
Uh,
It probably has something to do with sleep. There's probably
oh, I
some
think
sleep component.
exercise. I don't remember sleep being on there. Um,
Exercise, yeah.
I think exercise or some kind of healthiness, keeping your muscles, you know, having some strength with that. They're going to come to me. The use of some supplements, like I take chaga mushrooms and I take CBD oil and THC at night and things like that. So that was a component of it
Mm-hmm.
as well. And I wish I could remember the other ones, but I can't. I have them in a list somewhere.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, let's talk about the novelty one because the importance
Yeah.
of novelty, I think, is an interesting. When you mentioned that novelty was like one of the things you were doing, I that appealed to me very much so, of course.
Yes. Yeah.
But how, as you mentioned, you're raising a teenager. You have another kid who's in his low 20s, who's just starting to
Mhm.
kind of figure things out. How do you wrap in novelty to basically an extremely busy family life schedule? What are you
Yeah.
doing to try to put novelty into every single day?
So it was easy at first because we were traveling to San Francisco and so you're walking the streets and you're staying in different hotels and novelty was sort of everywhere. Then coming home, it felt novel again. All the neighbors are, you know, reaching out and you're taking your dogs for walks in various places and the weather is changing. And but as school has started and everyone's kind of in their routines and I'm more at home and we're not traveling as much, it's become harder because
Yeah.
it's sort of, especially with the routine of trying to, you know, do these things that we're talking about, meditation and making recordings and all that kind of stuff. I have a little schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I did just order a book that Katy actually told me about. Yeah, just yesterday. I ordered my own copy today, which is kind of like a more advanced sort of Where's Waldo slash find the hidden objects, but it's for adults and it has this really lovely art quality to it. So I got one of those books and I do all the New York Times puzzles on my phone every morning and
Yeah, I think that
uh
book it's called like what Pierre's Maze Adventure or something like that. I think it can be for kids actually. I don't know that it's necessarily for
oh
adults,
yeah,
but
okay, great. Yeah.
it's super cute. It's like a maze book on times 1,000 basically. The
Yeah.
mazes aren't necessarily like mind-splittingly hard, but it's you're doing mazes in very odd situations, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, but then the pictures, the illustrations are so rich with
Hmm.
hidden objects, and I mean, you could just look at one of the pictures all day and still not see everything. So,
Exactly. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been
So New York
nice.
Times. I mean, we've talked about novelty on the show before in the sense that like it can be novel if you always go out of your door and turn right. If you turn left, it can be novel. But it
Hmm.
does, I as a person who now basically works from home, and you're basically now a person who works from home, lives at home, is at home, just like me, you can see how it's so hard to break a routine to a certain degree because there'll be days and days where I'm like, I haven't gone anywhere. Like I basically live in these walls here.
Yeah.
So, but I like that you've made novelty not in like you have to have a big adventure all the time, but
No, and some of it is even just when I'm in the grocery store, I go down an aisle I usually skip because there's nothing there that I need on my list, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know this thing existed.
yeah.
Or I started volunteering at the food pantry at our church on Monday afternoons and just chatting with the unhoused people that come in. I mean, that has been a novel for sure because although I've always donated and I've always supported um, organizations that work with the unhoused, with my school schedule, had very little opportunity to engage with some of their public facing organizations that, do
Mhm.
things in that community. And so that's novel for me. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about their needs and the best products to have on hand that are useful to them and nutritional for them. And with that comes a lot of thinking about how did we get to the place where we have unhoused people in our country, and so it's a lot of thinking, and then maybe you research something online. And so taking the time, I guess, to explore some of these topics that maybe I wouldn't have had time to thoroughly research in the past.
Yeah. How do you feel about this is I'm going all over the place. How do you feel about wasting time now that in this cuz I mean I ask
Now
because I
that
had
time is short.
yeah, I mean it could be short for all of us, but I ask because I had a week this week where I felt like I had one of those weeks where I just never quite got going. You know, like I did a lot of things, like, you know, I had to go to a lot of different appointments and blah blah blah. Like I checked everything off that I was supposed to do, and yet I feel like I had multiple days where it was like a failure to start kind of day.
Hmm.
And I hate
Yeah.
those kind of days because of how gross they make you feel in general, but you know, even more gross when you have like our family is like dealing with so many things and you're like, no, I've been like putzing around now for like how many hours and have basically done nothing.
But that's
Um,
the dream, Kate. You're
but
living the
I don't,
dream.
I guess I don't feel that way. I
No,
find
I
it
understand that.
depressing.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah,
I
I mean,
understand that.
it just feels like what are you doing with your life when life is short? You know, is kind of how those days feel to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's it like for you?
Well, I think relaxing on one of your days is totally acceptable. Um, I have a little list. I'm looking at it right now that says library, zoo, park, art museum, garden store, hotel lobbies. And
Uh-huh.
those are all the things that I enjoy doing that, hey, if you need an idea, go do that. And how many have I done? Like two. So,
That's but
you
that's
know, I
smart actually to have like a list so you're like obviously nothing's going to get done today. I might as well go do something
yeah,
different.
yeah, do something different or even just we have dogs and we take them for walks, and even just walking a different direction or leaving the community as part of my walk, even that in itself becomes novel, which is crazy to say. You can see I walk the same paths all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
so in terms of thinking how am I spending my life, I think for me it's less doing and more feeling that's become meaningful to me. When I feel the connection between people, or I feel the frustration of teenager mom interactions, and I want it to be different, and so I spend time thinking about what can I change about how I'm reacting to this that will get us back to a place that she feels supported and I don't feel frustrated, and that we can demonstrate the love we have for each other. I mean, it's probably the work I should have been doing all along that just kind of got sidetracked,
Uh-huh.
pushed. pushed to the side in a busy schedule. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. I do think about, will I be able to travel anywhere that's further than a 3 hour plane ride away, And the
Mm-hmm.
answer to that's probably no. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I left your question hanging.
Oh, no, that's all right. All right. Well, we need to wrap it up anyway soon, but I do have one more question. Because another thing I get asked a lot about on this podcast is about our dad. Because our dad, we haven't talked about it as much on the show, but our dad also has brain cancer right now. He's got a different form of brain cancer and is also going through his own stages of that. He's like behind where you are, I would say. He's also 80, so he's experiencing things very differently than I think you did. But what is it like for you to be going through what you're going through and also have a father that's basically going through similar things?
Um, it's
Too big a question?
dead air. Sorry, everyone. Uh, Trying to think about how to say this. It feels heavy and light at the same time. I don't know how really to describe that. I think there's something about there's something about I don't know. I'll use the word knowing, even though there'll be people out there that say, don't forget there's still hope. You might be an outlier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, setting that very true statement aside, knowing that you probably don't have a whole lot of time left, maybe in 1 or 2 years, if you're lucky, if something else doesn't happen that triggers something else. I've thought a lot about, what does that mean? What does that mean for my relationships? What does that mean about what comes next? What does that mean about the nature of the universe and how it all works together, and the good and the bad and the past and the future, and it gets very cosmic and very universalism and very spiritual. And I think, to answer your question, and this might come as a shock, it comes as a shock to me. I kind of think we're all going to be seeing each other real soon. It's going to feel like this, even
Mm-hmm.
though it doesn't feel like that. And there's going to be a lot of grief and probably some heartache, but also our time is so short on the earth, and I certainly don't purport to have any answers about what comes next. I have my own belief system, which gives me hope and strength and comfort. But I wouldn't say that definitively it's the only thing.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of thinking about how we're all connected, and I feel as though Dad and I are our connection's going to stay regardless of what's happening, or how my brain is functioning, or how his brain is functioning, or whether or not we have longevity or not.
Mm-hmm.
I feel connected to Dad, just like I feel connected to Mom, and I feel connected to you and to Sara, that it can't be replaced. It can't even be described. It's
Mm-hmm.
the same as I feel connected to Evan and to Gracie and to Matthew, and the list goes on. But, I don't spend a lot of time feeling sad or in despair about Dad. I feel like this is just something that is going to play out, and then my story is going to play out, and the rest of our family stories are going to play out, and the people we care about. And then my hope is that on the other side, there's an explanation, or there's some joy, or there's some peace, or there's some harmony, resolution, all those words that every human is desperately seeking most of the time. Um,
Mm-hmm. For sure.
and so I don't that if I got the call right now that, Dad had passed, of course I'd be instantly in tears and my heart would be pounding and I would be upset. But in general, I have, at least right now, I might feel completely differently in a couple of months.
Right.
I don't know what the word is. I feel like it's not the end. We're all still connected. There's nothing that can disrupt that connection,
Mm-hmm.
even in death. And I don't know. That's what I've got right now.
Makes me teary to hear you say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, one more question. Because Dad makes a point of having breakfast with each one of his daughters once a month. And it's been a little less frequent because he's been so kind of under the weather, I guess, lately. But because we each have our own individual relationship with him and we all talk with him about very different things, I think.
Hmm.
Is there anything that you two talk about in regards to like the fact that you're both sharing this that you don't really talk about with the rest of us who are, at any given point stressed or fragile about it? you know?
I think it's interesting because it's probably the opposite of that because we both understand what the other person's going through. Like we don't necessarily have to talk about, oh, how was radiation? How was chemo? How do you feel tippy? Are you getting enough sleep? How is the
Yeah.
vibe in the house? Because we're both in it. So I think both of us look forward to talking about something completely different because the rest of our life is sort of all about that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And although Dad and I haven't had too much chance to have our regular Saturdays, because it's only once a month to begin with, so if you miss one,
Yep.
which has happened 2 or 3 times, then it's not very frequent. But it's been about our reflections on maybe what comes next or what brings you comfort, but not necessarily the medical side of things,
Mm-hmm.
but also just random topics like what's happening with the kids,
Yeah.
what's happening with his, we've like, for example, we talked about a friend of his who had passed and things like that. And so just the news, the news of the day. And
Yeah.
he's very adept at meeting us each where we are. And I'm probably the person that is the least deep of the three of us.
I don't know, Dane. Now we're
um,
everybody's already at their emails being like, I don't think Dana's not deep at all. Yeah.
right. But I mean, in general, if you knew the three of us and you had known us over the course of our lives, both Sara and Katy go deep on a daily basis. And
It's a
I'm
curse and a
I'm
blessing. Yeah.
I'm a lot more like a golden retriever, just wanting to catch the ball. So,
If only I had a little bit more of that in me, that'd be great. Okay. I know I said that was my last question, but I actually have one more. And we'll do
I'm
this.
not going anywhere.
Let's try to do
So,
this again so we can give people sort of more regular updates so that they don't have to write in so much asking me how Dana's doing.
yeah.
Um, okay, I guess, and this is something I feel like I want to check in with you about all the time, but, um, we all are like, I mean, a lot of people have cancer. Like, we all gonna know people who have cancer in our lives. We've all
For
had
sure.
friends who died
Yes.
of cancer already, probably. We all know friends who have cancer. Maybe we listening have cancer. All of the things. Like, cancer is everywhere.
Yes.
And we all want to say the right things to other people.
Hmm.
And I know you get a ton of messages, but is there anything like that's glaring that people say that like really rubs you the wrong way? I know it's a fraught question to answer because you don't want to say like you're not grateful for what everything people say, but I always feel like there's got to be some things that feel, I don't know, a bad way.
I think there's nothing that feels in a bad way because I know everyone's trying to say something encouraging. They're not trying to hurt you. They're not trying to say something that doesn't ring true. Um, and often people are nervous about what to say, and so they sometimes will grab onto something that they've heard other people say, or I don't want to use the word platitude because that has some negative connotations to it, but some
Mm-hmm.
overused phrases, like, for example, uh, I don't know if anyone said this to me, but something along the lines of, "You've got this, you're going to beat this,"
Fight the good fight, so to speak.
yeah, sort of, you deserve to have, a good outcome from this, or uh, something along the lines of you don't, this is taking it way too far, but for simplification purposes, you don't deserve this and you're going to get out of it. That whole sort of
Mm-hmm.
anything that someone might say that's in that phrase, that's or in that vein, it only that is one of the only things I can think of that rubs me a little bit the wrong way because I think it misses the opportunity for the deep richness of gifts that this experience has given to me. So it's almost like I don't want someone to take away. I mean, I'd like to live as long as possible, but I don't want the experiences that I've had to have not been or to have be taken away
Mm-hmm.
because they've been extremely meaningful to me in terms of like what life is all about, and you get to kind of see how your life has unfolded and the impact that you've had, and people reflecting that back to you is just such a huge gift. And I just I just really wouldn't want that taken away. And
Mm-hmm.
it's also and I know I've said this before because I say it every time someone's asking me. Most people don't get this, most people don't get a lot of time to connect, to try to get things right, to get their head in the right space, to get their finances in order, to tell everyone what they wish they could tell them, to be asked questions like this about what their experience is like. My situation has been so remarkable in its I can't I keep saying the word gifts, but I have no I like brain cancer. I can't come up with I need a thesaurus. But I mean, I feel the goodness of it so much more profoundly than the difficulty. And maybe that'll change as things go on, but I don't anticipate that it will. So even if my endurance needs to kick up a few notches to be able to withstand what's coming, I don't think the gravity of the good side of the world will disappear
Mm-hmm.
from my soul. It's soul filling. It makes every day more meaningful. It's kind of like what all the cards are trying to get at, like make each day like it's its own thing, or we're
Live
all
like
in
it's your
these
last. Yeah.
live like it's your last day, or do now what you wish you want to do in 10 years, all that kind of stuff. It's all trying to get at reframing this amazing gift of life that sometimes is a hellhole and sometimes is, unbelievable. And sometimes it's happening all within like a 5-minute period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think there's so much about the universe and the world we don't understand. And I'm getting to tap into a little bit of those complexities. And it's interesting and it's unifying as humans
Mm-hmm.
that all of us at different points in time are probably going to have these same ideas and thoughts. And if we can just, it makes other things so pointless, like politics. I don't even go there anymore because I just get frustrated and angry and kind of go into despair. So I just don't don't think about it because it seems so small compared to bigger things.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously extremely important, and I would never say it doesn't have worth, which it does, but
Yeah.
it's it really having this kind of experience allows you to really hone in on the important things of life. Connection, love, family, taking care of humans.
Yeah. I I mean I have other things on my list that we were going to maybe talk about, but I'm thinking let's just
Two-part series.
let's just leave it there. Let's leave it there for
Okay.
now. If you have a question for
Okay.
Dana, if you're listening and you have a question for Dana, feel free beyond how is she doing because now you have an update. Feel free to write in some questions because we will, as long as you're willing, check in with you again and have you on the show again.
Well, I might lose my marbles before I can make any sense, but that's okay.
Well, we'll try to do it before then.
I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
All right. Well, and for now we will leave it there. And until next time, this is the Bittersweet Life. I'm Katy Sewell.
I'm Dana Zoller.
Talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.
welcome your feedback, show topic ideas, or questions. You can always reach the show by emailing bittersweetlifepodcast@gmail.com or through the bittersweetlife.net.